What if I told you that just 150 years ago, people regularly did things that today would get you arrested, fined, or shut down immediately? And the shocking part, back then, these things weren't controversial. They were completely normal. The 1800s were a time of massive change, industrial growth, expansion, invention, and transformation. But many everyday practices that society accepted at the time would be illegal under modern laws. Let's step back in time. Here are 10 things that were normal in the 1800s, but would be illegal today. And number 1 might surprise you. Before we begin, if you enjoy strange historical truths and surprising facts about the past, make sure to like this video and subscribe. It helps this channel reach more curious minds like yours. Now let's begin. Children working full-time jobs. In the 1800s, child labor wasn't unusual. Children as young as 6 or 7 years old worked in factories, coal mines, textile mills, and farms. Some worked 10 to 14 hours a day in dangerous conditions. It wasn't considered shocking. Many families depended on that income to survive. There were no federal labor laws protecting children, no required school attendance in many areas, no minimum working age. Today, strict child labor laws in the United States make this illegal. There are age restrictions, hour limits, and safety protections. Back then, it was simply part of life, selling dangerous medicines with no regulation. In the 1800s, you could walk into a shop and buy miracle cures for almost anything. Headaches, fatigue, anxiety, even serious diseases. The problem, many of these products contained highly addictive or toxic substances, and there were no labeling requirements. There was no FDA, no ingredient transparency, no safety testing. Companies could claim their product cured anything with zero scientific proof. Today, strict health regulations prevent this. Products must go through testing, ingredient disclosure, and safety approval. Back then, it was buyer beware. Public executions as entertainment. In the early 1800s, public executions were community events. Families attended. Vendors sold food. Crowds gathered. It was considered a public display of justice. Over time, governments began to see that these events often caused more harm than deterrence, sometimes even encouraging chaos or disorder. By the late 1800s, many states moved executions behind prison walls. Today, public executions are illegal in the United States. What was once public spectacle is now strictly controlled and private. No workplace safety standards. Factories during the Industrial Revolution were extremely dangerous. Machines had no protective guards. Workers received little to no training. Injuries were common. There were no national workplace safety regulations. If someone got hurt, they were often simply replaced. Today, agencies like OSHA enforce strict safety standards to protect workers. Back then, survival depended on luck as much as skill. Sending children through the mail. This one sounds unbelievable, but it's true. In the early days of the U.S. Postal Service parcel system, some families mailed small children short distances because it was cheaper than train fare. It wasn't common, but it happened. There were no clear rules preventing it at first. Very quickly, regulations were updated to prohibit mailing human beings. Today, of course, this would be illegal, but at the time, the system simply hadn't anticipated it. Owning people as property. One of the darkest realities of the 1800s was legalized slavery in the United States until 1865. Millions of human beings were treated as property under the law. This was legal in many states before the Civil War. After the 13th Amendment, slavery was abolished nationwide. Today, any form of human trafficking or forced labor is illegal under federal law. This remains one of the most significant legal and moral changes in American history. Animal fighting is public sport. In the 1800s, organized animal fighting events were common forms of entertainment. In some regions, these events attracted large crowds and betting. Over time, society began recognizing the cruelty involved. Today, organized animal fighting is illegal in all 50 states, with serious criminal penalties. What was once normalized entertainment is now recognized as animal abuse. No food safety regulations. Imagine buying milk that usante pastori said, meat stored without refrigeration, food processed in unsanitary facilities, with no inspections. That was common in the 1800s. There were no federal food safety laws. It wasn't until the early 20th century, after public outrage and investigative journalism exposed dangerous conditions, that major reforms were passed. Today, food production is heavily regulated for sanitation and safety. Back then, contamination was an everyday risk, disposing of waste in the streets. In growing cities during the 1800s, there were no modern sewage systems in many areas. Trash, animal waste, and household waste were often thrown into the streets. This led to serious public health problems. Over time, cities invested in sanitation systems, waste management, and public health infrastructure. Today, improper waste disposal can lead to heavy fines. Back then, it was part of urban life. Duels to settle disputes. If two men had a serious disagreement in the early 1800s, they might settle it through a duel, though technically illegal in many states. Even then, dueling was socially tolerated in certain circles. It followed formal codes of conduct. By the mid to late 1800s, public opinion shifted strongly against the practice. Today, of course, violence to settle disputes is strictly illegal. Conflict resolution now happens in courts, not on fields at dawn. The 1800s weren't just a different time, they were a different world. What we consider basic protections today: child labor laws, workplace safety standards, food regulations, consumer protection, civil rights, didn't always exist. And many of the laws we take for granted were written because something went wrong first. History reminds us that progress often comes after hardship. It also reminds us how quickly society can change. So here's the question. If someone from the 1800s visited today, what would shock them the most? And 150 years from now, what things we do today might future generations find unbelievable? If this video surprised you, leave a comment below with the one fact that shocked you the most. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more fascinating truths about history that change the way you see the world. Because the past is stranger than we think.